What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Miko, once again joined by Morgan Cannon, one of the beat writers over at prideofdetroit.com. Morgan, what's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good Friday.
Yeah, man. So Morgan and I are once again back to do another film breakdown, similar to the one that we uploaded earlier today, or I guess when you guys are seeing this yesterday. But today we're going to actually be focusing more on the Atlanta Falcons. So this is something that I did solo last week, where I kind of broke down some of the strengths and weaknesses of the Seattle Seahawks. We're basically going to do the same thing, except Morgan and I are going to split the responsibilities. Morgan's going to focus on the offense. I'm going to focus on the defense, and we're just going to highlight, specific players, specific play styles, and kind of just give an idea of what are some things that the Lions need to be on the lookout for. And then by the end of this video, we're going to kind of give our opinion on whether we are confident or a little concerned about the Lions going into this matchup. Morgan, that sound good to you?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man. Well, look, Morgan's up first with the offense. So, Morgan, let's key up this first play that you have here for the offense.
All right, sounds good. Go ahead and let it run. All right. I just love this design. So we'll let it run there. And then now that we got it reset, so this is something that Arthur Smith, Falcons head coach, they do a lot of, man. A lot of their personnel is pretty stagnant. They're going to, have two receivers in there, Drake London, and then, somebody else. They're going to rotate through, but not really. And a lot of times they just have a bunch of backs and tight ends on the field. And they do a lot of this with Bijan. They send him in motion. They have him split out wide in the slot in the backfield. So you do have to take account of where he is pre-snap. And, yeah, this is just an easy way for a conversion, an easy way to get Bijan the ball out in space. And you can go ahead and let it run again, Miko. So, yeah, they're going to motion 25 up next to Ritter. Sends Bijan. And they get him the ball in space. Defense is flowing one way, and that's an easy conversion for them. This is in the second quarter.
Yeah, so that is something that you're absolutely going to have to keep an eye on, especially, again, I kind of like to highlight this, like when teams are in zone coverage, so you don't have someone following, like you don't have someone trailing Bijan, matched up with him man to man. It just makes it so much easier when all these people, like all of these defenders are going to drop into zone, and Bijan easily gets just open space available to him, and then he's just a handful to deal with in open space, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a redundant theme throughout this. When I was watching this tape of Green Bay and Atlanta, it's just they want to get him the ball in space. They want to get him the ball on the move so he can use his he's crazy athletic, man. Everyone's athletic in the NFL, but this guy's, you can tell, is a notch or two above everyone else, especially in space where he can just be so dynamic.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the second play that we have here when looking at the Atlanta Falcons.
Sounds good.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah,
man. Like
Go
rookies
ahead.
shouldn't be able to do these things, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk us through what's going on here.
Oh man, just patience, right? That's what I wrote down for this play here. It's the stretch zone, and he's just going to let things open up in front of him, man. This line's good. They're better at run blocking than they are at pass protection. That came out on film quite a bit. Ritter did take some shots. He was hurried. Got sacked a few times, I believe, but they can move some bodies, man. They've spent, assets on the offensive line and showing. But yeah, Bijan, good job of staying patient, but still keeping his feet moving, right? That's a delicate balance for running backs. A lot of pre-snap motion, so they're getting the defense to roll one way while they're hitting them another way. You'll see that. So it's a theme. They do it out of a lot of formations, and they vary the personnel, but there's a lot of misdirection and a lot of pre-snap motion. But yeah, really good patience by Bijan, man. Keeps the feet moving, boom, boom, boom. Line stays busy.
And the little hurdle at the end, just to pick up a few more yards. So again, like still being aware of what's going on in front of him. So, I mean, again, like you're saying, showing great patience. And I mean, offensive line just walls off the entire defensive line, and if it's not for, Quay Walker right there on the back end of this to kind of clean this up, like that's probably going a few more yards afterwards.
Yeah, they did a great job, like you said, Miko. Backside, Matthews, number 70 at the left tackle. You see everyone's getting a hat on a hat, climbing to the second level, getting, yeah, active. This is going to be Lions are going to have to be disciplined. They're going to have to really, get to the run to the football and stay disciplined. Backside with their run fits, gap integrity. You're going to hear gap integrity a lot this weekend.
And it also kind of feels like, and we can kind of after this move on to the next play, but like this is also just a mismatch like up front immediately. If we kind of go back to the beginning of this, you
Hmm.
know, with the way and the style of all or defense that the Packers play, you only have three down linemen here, and it's basically linebackers and then secondary players against all these bodies. Like you're kind of almost expecting your defensive line to be quick off the snap and being able to disrupt this. And if they're not able to do that, the result is again, like you were saying, bodies, hats on a hat, and just everyone being kind of moved out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like you see where I think that's 95 for Green or 55 for Green Bay. They just get washed, man. Same with 95. I mean, it's doubles, right? So watch 63 and 67 for Atlanta. Boom, boom, drive and get the guys. They got two guys on the ground. That's who Bijan had to jump over. But yeah, you're going to have to populate. You're going to have to get to the football, run to the football. And I doubt the Lions are going to be playing like a lot of too high shell against Atlanta this weekend. I think that line of scrimmage is going to get crowded quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the third play that we have here, kind of focusing again on the Atlanta's offense and just some of the things that they did really well against the Green Bay Packers here.
Mm.
So again, just like just elusive in the open field, right? And it's not even like a lot of like heavy jukes. It's real like fluid, slight little movements.
Yeah, man, and he just does such a good job of navigating traffic already. This is really, really great from Bijan. So again, just another stretch, this time to the other side, and it's just nasty jump cuts. Boom, boom. Like he hit two jump cuts just while he was navigating, like finding out where he wants to run. Like watch the two jump cuts he hits as he gets to the line of scrimmage. Pop, pop. And it's just the third one when he just makes 26 look like a fool. That's just icing on the cake. But boom, finds the crease, breaks a couple tackles, evades another one, another first down. This is a cheap way for Arthur Smith and the Falcons offense to just churn up yards, man. I think they rushed for over 200 yards against Green Bay. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Gosh.
and Bijan was a big part of that, right? I mean, again, there's a reason why we're highlighting him specifically in these plays because again, he may not be the bell cow right now. Obviously, they still have Tyler Algier back there as well that they're going to split carries with. But this is what they want to do with him, right? They want to get him in space. They want to get him against DBs because they feel like he's a mismatch in the open field like this. And man, I mean, the thing that gives me, I guess, a little bit of like confidence about this is that like we've seen the Lions be very good against the run through 2 weeks. And it's not just because their defensive line has been really strong. Like we've seen strong tackling from the linebackers, we've seen strong tackling from the safeties. Um, but this is a problem, right? This is a problem if you're not able to fill gaps, if you're not able to stay disciplined as far as staying contained or keeping contained in the run game.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a week where Dan Campbell always talks about how they don't just play one scheme and just get behind that. They're situational. So I could see the Lions opting for a lot of 4 and like 5-man fronts against Atlanta this weekend and, try to just muck up things, try to get some bodies in there, use bugs, use lean. We'll see who's active. But yeah, they're going to need to fill up gaps. They're going to need to allow their linebackers to run and fly to the football. And people are going to have to break down and make tackles. Bijan's one of those cats. Like if he breaks a tackle or two and he gets a crease, he could take it to the crib easily. He's got that game breaker speed on top of everything else that he's displaying in these clips. So yeah, I have it written down here. It's my last note. Smash mouth. They want to operate with multiple tight ends and running backs and just beat you down. That's Atlanta's goal. The way they won against Green Bay, that's the way they want to win.
That's going to do it for the third play. Again, another great play by Bijan, showing again just how dangerous he can be both as a receiver and as a runner. Let's jump into the fourth play here that we have for the Falcons.
Easy. So I included this because they did do a decent amount of design runs with Ritter, and this kind of just shows you the attention that's being focused on Bijan, right? So I have Rashawn Gary, the Packers linebacker, um, circled pre-snap, and just watch him take way too many steps down the line of scrimmage. By that time, he's out of position, and Ritter's got him. All he's got to do is turn the corner and make one man miss. That's an easy touchdown. So there were several instances when Arthur Smith and the Falcons, they decided to let Ritter run the ball, and he's not the athlete that Mahomes is, or some of these guys, but he's going to make people miss, and he's definitely athletic enough to get into space and make this kind of play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first thing, because I remember watching this play when I was also just going through the film, trying to get to some of the defensive clips, and this was one immediate. I was like, nope, not doing your job. Like, I don't even need to know exactly what the play is here. I already know that Rashawn Gary's responsibility here is contained. It's backside contained, and he bites so hard on that run fake. And like you said, it probably is a result of how effective Atlanta had been running the ball with Bijan at this point, where he's forgetting that, like, oh yeah, Desmond Ritter is an issue in this area as well.
Yep, and you can even see Quay Walker at the middle linebacker. He jumps down to 2 and he gets out of position, but yeah, Gary takes way too many steps. He's got to kind of shuffle his feet and delay that reaction a little bit, and just kind of slow play it, right? You got to be a little bit more patient, and I don't blame him. Bijan had been killing them all game. This is later in the game. This is so at this point they're trying to really key in and slow down 7, but it's it comes with a price.
Yeah, I think even for some context, so again, for the viewers, earlier in the game, the Falcons had gotten to the red zone in a similar situation like this, and they kept trying to run it, with Bijan, with Tyler Algier, and I believe they got all the way down to like the 1 or 2 yard line, and still couldn't get the ball in, and eventually just had to settle for a field goal. Like, but at no point in time during that series did Desmond Ritter ever get an opportunity to run. So clearly, like, again, the Packers just not ready for it. And kind of kept catching a couple guys sleeping on the job in this situation.
Yep, got rock people to sleep, and that's what Ben Johnson is known for. I hope he's got some things that he can hit Atlanta with, but we'll hit that in a little bit. But yeah, I'm hoping everyone's got to be disciplined. I know I said it last clip too, but really got to be disciplined and stay at home and do everything you're supposed to do, because they've got some guys that can make you pay.
No, absolutely. With that said, let's move on to the last play that we have here for the offense. Again, we're gonna let it run for a minute, and then Morgan's we'll come back and just kind of break it down as far as everything we're seeing on the screen here.
So this is their game-winning drive where they went and kicked a field goal that beat Green Bay. So just an easy way to get Bijan the ball and an easy way to convert a first down that almost gets them in field goal range. So the black you'll have, I don't know who that is off the top right there, but it's just really a for love of the game route, right? He's just, switch release. He's running first, and he's clearing out the defense and allowing space for Bijan just to run the little slant underneath. Easy throw and catch for Ritter, and an easy conversion, man. This is a lot of this stood out in Arthur Smith's offense. There's a lot of easy ways to get Bijan the ball and get him, easy conversions.
No, absolutely. And I think like that's one of the things, again, when I watch the tape as well, like Atlanta they're not going to kill you in the passing game necessarily, as far as like Desmond Ritter dropping back 30 plus times and just chucking the ball all over the yard necessarily, but they will do creative things like this to get their playmakers open, to get the mismatch that they're looking for. And again, like this is something that's very common in the NFL, but again, when you have a guy like Bijan who can line up that far on the outside, I mean, that's something that we've been talking about the Lions doing with Jahmyr Gibbs, and Atlanta's doing the exact same thing with Robinson already in this early in the season.
Yeah, it's impressive that they're moving him around, and I'm sure it's a lot on his plate in terms of knowledge of the playbook and knowledge of the scheme and where he needs to be, and but yeah, it's impressive. He was picked where he was for a reason, similar to Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think we've said it a couple times. Lions defense better come ready to play on Sunday.
No, no, absolutely. And speaking of defense, we're actually going to transition over. I'm going to break down a couple of plays from the Falcons defense because again, the Falcons are 2-0 for a reason. And I would say while their offense has been electric at moments, I feel like their defense has really capitalized on the matchups that they've had this early in the season. So let's definitely jump into some of the plays that we have here for the defense. All right, so Morgan here, like I have two really good plays from the Falcons defense, and specifically, like these plays are going to focus on safety Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates was obviously recently acquired by the Falcons this offseason, and he is doing a lot of CJ GJ type of things for the Falcons in their defense. In this play, we can see him kind of come up and run support from his safety spot. And I think that's just, again, really impressive. Like he's playing deep safety, and to be able to make it all the way back to the line of scrimmage to be able to get this tackle for just a minimal gain. It's amazing, right? Like if you're someone that's a fan of safety play, like this is the stuff that you want to be able to see from your starting safety.
Yeah, Bates can do it all. That's a reason. There's a reason Atlanta paid him the way they paid him. He can do everything that you want out of a modern day safety. Yeah, this is a nice play. Oof.
And I mean, again, just like being able to read where everything is like read everything that's happening in front of him, immediately knowing that it's a run play, not getting caught up in the trash, and then boom, right in there for the tackle. Before a linebacker, before a defensive tackle. And then this play right here, Bates shows off the other part of his game, which is the playmaking part. And he gave Bryce Young fits in this game. I mean, this is one of three turnovers that he had in this game, but this was his first interception of the game. And he just, I mean, no pun intended, but he baits him. Like he just,
Yep.
Bryce Young thinks he has this opening, and it's just not there, right? I mean, this receiver at the bottom of the screen is going to come, is going to come inside, and Bates is just going to jump it. And I believe that was Adam Thielen. No, that was the tight end. My bad.
Oh, okay, yeah, makes more sense from where he released.
Yeah, and
yep.
I mean, again, the defensive line gets a little bit of pressure there, but I mean, these are the types of things that, you know, Jared Goff and the offense are going to have to be concerned about in regards to Jesse Bates, because he'll bait you, he'll play mind games, and he'll just sit back there and wait for you to make a mistake. And if it's something that he believes that he can break on and get a play, you know, on the ball, he's going to do that. He's going to do just that.
Yeah, he's one of those safeties I'm sure Goff has spent plenty of time this week, you know, identifying him pre-snap, figuring out where he's going to be, you know, when Goff is trying to cut his ball loose. So yeah, it's one of those things, especially as a rookie. I'm sure Bates is back there licking his chops because Bryce Young's playing behind a not so great offensive line right now. And yeah, life's going to be tough for Bryce Young probably the rest of the season, him and CJ Stroud.
Yeah, and there's just things that Bryce Young is going to have to learn, right? And you know, as far as being able to, you know, move defenders with your eyes and things like that, but it is something that gives me a little bit of confidence with Jared Goff. We obviously, you know, in our other film breakdown that we did with the Seahawks, Jared Goff has a number of good plays where he manipulates the defense with his eyes, but you know, that skill set is going to really have to be on point when going up against Bates and this defense.
Yeah, he's gonna be cognizant of, you know, if you're staring down a receiver, because right there it looked like Bryce Young looked at that post a lot of the, you know, almost the whole way. So yeah, can't do that. Can't do that with a safety like Bates back there.
No, absolutely not. And then this is his second pick, and it's very much something similar, right? Where again,
I was going to say almost identical.
he just reads it, right? He's playing single high. Bryce Young is looking one way, but then the minute he tries to come back, you know, late, or at least I'm assuming he's thinking like, oh, okay, I got it. I've already been staring one way. The safety should be, but it's like he loses track of the fact that like Jesse Bates never bites.
No, he wasn't buying Bryce's eyes. Watch him in the center right there, right at the left hash. Boop. Yeah, he didn't buy Bryce's eyes for a second, and it shows.
And again, that's a veteran taking advantage of a rookie for sure. But it's something that, again, that the Lions have to be careful of, because again, like Jesse Bates is sound technically, right? Like he understands what his responsibilities are. He understands what he's supposed to be doing in coverage. And so you're going to have to work double time if you're going to be trying to get him out of position to throw routes like this if you're trying to get these deep in cuts or these deep post routes. You're really going to have to, try to, confuse him or get him out of position.
Yeah, I think this is where they're going to have to rely on St. Brown and Laporta to just attack the intermediate portions of the field and soften Bates, a guy like Bates up, because the way to get Bates to stop making these kind of plays is to throw the ball over his head a couple of times, and that might have to be Josh Reynolds or Khalif Raymond again, like last week against the Seahawks on the flea flicker. So there are ways to soften them up, but yeah, this isn't it, allowing him to just sit back there and read your eyes and react.
No. And the thing that's also crazy about Jesse Bates though is that like it's not just these type of routes. So even if you try to throw it short on him, he has great closing speed. Like he will make these types of beelines for your tight ends, for your running backs, and limit yardage. Again, playing as a too high safety. Love gets the pass out to the tight end in the flat, and he sees it, reads it, and attacks the receiver. No wasted motion, and is able to really kind of save a big gainer because I mean the corner's kind of out of position on this play.
Yeah, like you said, Miko, he broke on the ball perfectly, attacks that ankle, attacks that hip, gets his guy on the ground. 81's mad too because he knows he probably could have had more instead of just that first down. They picked up the first down, it looks like, but yeah, could have had more. But Jesse Bates, he, again, like you said, breaks on the ball immediately. Jordan Love looks that way and he starts getting into the flat immediately. Pretty good play.
Yeah, so I mean, again, another something else that the Lions just have to be, concerned with when it comes down to playing against this Falcons defense, right? I mean, you have a guy like Jesse Bates that can play the center field, he can take away the deeper routes, he can also still make plays on the ball when you decide to throw it short. So in that context, the Lions are going to have to be very creative, and it's not something I'm super worried about with Ben Johnson. He's basically shown that throughout his tenure here is that he has that ability to be creative. But if you're trying to take advantage of a guy like Jesse Bates, like you're going to have to find ways of manipulating him. And kind of like you're saying earlier, that maybe with the likes of Amon-Ra St. Brown or Sam Laporta or even Jahmyr Gibbs, but you're going to have to try to find ways of softening Bates up so that he's not able to just, again, pick you apart in coverage.
Yeah, I trust Ben Johnson to kind of navigate around a chess piece like Bates, but then like you said earlier, a lot of it's going to fall on the shoulders of Goff just to take account of where he is, both pre-snap, post-snap. If he's baiting you into something, got to be cognizant.
But yeah, Morgan, I mean, Jesse Bates is obviously a problem that the Lions are going to have to be worried about, but it's not just him, right? This Falcons team also has a very competitive and a very feisty defensive line that I think the Lions are also going to have to be cognizant of, especially with the Lions having a couple, players missing due to injury. So, let's jump into some of the tape that I have here of the Falcons D line. This first one is, again, there's some monsters up front and they can get pressure very quickly. And if the Lions aren't ready, if they're not sound in their technique, these are the types of things that can happen to your quarterback. As we kind of see in this play where, Bryce Young, again, takes the snap and it's pretty quick, right? They kind of flush him out of the pocket pretty early. He has to make just a dump off pass to the running back in the flat. And I believe this was on third down. So obviously they needed more yardage. Atlanta didn't give them any opportunity to be able to, pick that yardage up or for him to even get comfortable back there, after he got the snap.
Yeah, this Carolina offensive line's already working shorthanded. And yeah, this Atlanta defensive line, like you mentioned, has got some dudes on it. You got David Onyemata, Calais Campbell. They still have Grady Jarrett. That's going to be they're going to be tough to run against, which is what I anticipate. The Lions' offensive line's obviously very good still, even down a couple players and Taylor Decker and Big V, Hal Vaitai. But yeah, this is this is like you mentioned before we got going. It looks like the whole line's just on him in a blink, which is basically what happens.
Yeah, and again, for a quarterback like Jared Goff that like works best, and I'm sure this is true for most quarterbacks, but specifically Goff loves to work in rhythm, loves for things to be on time. And so the last thing you want, as an offense is to be, thrown off because the defensive line is getting, immediate pressure on you or forcing you to change your landing spot before you want to.
Yep, that's what they did here. They got Bryce off his spot, made him climb in the pocket, escape, and just take what the defense has given him, which is ultimately that's what the Lions want to do, or they want to keep the quarterback in the pocket with their rush, the way they rush the quarterback. But we'll see if that changes this weekend at all. I doubt it will.
Yeah, absolutely. And so another thing that really stood out, we all know how Dan Campbell loves to be aggressive on fourth downs. This is a situation where the Panthers were in the red zone. I think it was like 4th and 1. They just needed a yard to be able to keep this drive going. And Atlanta doesn't bite. Again, this defensive line stands up strong. You have Calais Campbell, you have Grady Jarrett there. Number 90, also a monster in the defensive line, but like they aren't moved off their spots. Like this is just again, very, very impressive by this defensive line. Actually, I lied. That first play was 3rd and 1. This is the 4th and 1.
That makes
So they
sense.
like again, yeah. So they tried to run it twice to get this first down, and Atlanta was ready for it both times.
Yeah, man. Even Bud Dupree, who's not normally number 48 there, who's not normally known for his run defense, had made a good play. Watch when they flip back to the other view, though. I want to spotlight Grady Jarrett because, my goodness, this is just pretty rude of Grady. So watch 97 right there. He's lined up over the left guard. Watch what he does to this left guard. Puts him into the backfield, makes whoever is running the ball have to jump cut and stutter, and that's ultimately what makes the play. You can watch it here again from this view. Just pushes him all the way back, makes him jump cut. This is it. Yeah, they're going to be tough to run against. I hope Frank and Jonah and Graham and everybody else are ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of them being tough to run against, I mean, again, it's not just in the run game, right? Because again, the minute you think like, okay, look, they're being aggressive, they're being really feisty up front. Let's go ahead and throw a screen pass. This defensive line will blow those up too. And we see that here, against the Packers. Running back doesn't even like get to where he's supposed to be. They don't necessarily clear the trash out, and he ends up, I believe, right in the arms. I believe it was of Grady Jarrett. If not Grady Jarrett, I think it was maybe number 90. Yeah,
I think
like
that's Onyemata, I'm pretty sure. That's
yeah.
the guy
So
they
like,
signed this offseason.
and I've heard like again, I've heard a lot of great things about him. Um, But yeah, like this defensive line sets the tone, displaces a bunch of these offensive linemen, so they're not able to get out in space and get this screen game going. So it's like it's not just the run game. Like they will play, they'll play any type of game that you want to, whether it's screens, if it's the pass game, if it's the run game. They're this is a group of guys that are just ready to make plays any given down.
Yeah, and it's a good job of Onyemata staying home and staying in his rush lane, so he's still at home to make this play. And Jordan Love probably should have just killed this and thrown it at the feet of 27, but he's, I don't know, he just threw it to 27, and he, like you said, he's already in the arms of Onyemata. Oh, the ball came out too. Wow, I guess it was just a drop. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
again, lucky in that situation, right? Lucky that it's a
yeah.
drop and not a loss of yardage.
That was risky business.
But I mean, as good as this defense is, I do want to highlight a couple plays uh that I was able to find where I do think like there's some weaknesses in this defense because they're very strong in the middle. That defensive line really gets after you, like I talked about with Jesse Bates. But both Carolina and Green Bay, specifically Green Bay more so, they did find ways of taking advantage of this defense and putting them in some very compromising situations. So let me cue up a couple of those plays on the defense, and then we can kind of dive into those as well. All right, so Morgan, right here, I have a play from the Carolina game, and this is like Carolina's only touchdown drive, and it's kind of unfortunate because I think they were starting to figure things out, but when you have a rookie quarterback, when you have an offensive line that's maybe not completely healthy or it's missing a couple pieces or just not gelling well, I don't think you're able to repeat the success. But as strong as let's start with the defensive line first. As strong as this defensive line is up the middle specifically, if you are able to get these guys moving laterally, you can find some pretty big holes. And if you have the types of backs that can accelerate quick enough to get through the holes and get to the next level, these are the types of plays that can happen. And this is one example in the Carolina game, but they did have a good amount of success on the ground against Carolina. I believe if I checked the box when I last checked the box score, Carolina ran for over 150
Mm.
on Atlanta. And there were a lot of plays like this. It wasn't a lot of 1 or 2 yard gains. There was a lot of like them attacking, running off the left side of their offensive line and being able to find chunk plays like this.
Yeah, this is just zone, and the running back finds a crease. They do a good job of moving some bodies. I will say, as good as Atlanta is up front, since they retooled this offseason, they spent a bunch of money. They are vulnerable at linebacker, so if you can get Jameer Gibbs and Zonovan Knight and other, skilled position players in the second level, I do think they're more vulnerable there, at the linebacker position. Obviously, they have AJ Terrell on one side. I think Jeff Okudah is going to be the corner on the other side. So there are
Yeah.
mismatches to be had for sure. I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was another thing that, like, again, in watching this defense, as strong as they are at defensive line, I really like their safeties in both Jesse Bates and Richie Grant. AJ Terrell is a very good corner. Their weakness probably on defense are these linebackers, right? And it is their ability to flow to traffic properly. I don't know, how young or whatever these linebackers may be, but there are a couple times where yes, you can catch them out of position and really take advantage of them in the run game.
Yep, and this is where I expect Ben Johnson to utilize, a good bit of misdirection, himself to get those linebackers biting on some eye candy and then get them flowing one way and hit them another. So I expect that the Lions will have a good bit of misdirection and trickery pre-snap themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next play that came up like literally right after this run play is something that you talked about in our last video with Sam Laporta, as far as Ben Johnson loving these late releases from his tight ends. Carolina does something very similar and takes full advantage of it, basically getting them within very close to the 5 yard line. And like I said, it only took a few more plays after this for Carolina to get into the end zone. But again, another kind of weakness in this defense where, like, hey, defensive line doesn't get a strong push. The linebackers are nowhere to be found on this play. And so your tight end is able to just kind of work the middle of the field here and find open space and make a play.
Yeah, and he was totally unaccounted for after he released there, and that's what the Lions need to get Laporta into more of, because he does have so much run after the catch ability. He's got some wiggly, elusive hips for being a 6'3", 250-pound cat from Iowa. So I'm always impressed with how athletic he is and how good he is with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, who knows if this was exactly how the play was designed, right? I mean, it kind of feels like that because of how seamlessly like Bryce Young gets the ball here. But I mean, again, we'll have to really see how this Atlanta, defense responds when going up against a more veteran quarterback, a quarterback that kind of understands how to manipulate coverage and manipulate linebackers and safeties, with just again some slight misdirection, slight eye movement, and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's where I think they will have a bit of an advantage as opposed to guys like Bryce Young and even Jordan Love, who doesn't have a ton of experience at this point in his career. So, yeah, agree with you there, Miko.
And so the last other like little thing that I want to highlight with the Falcons defense, where again I kind of see just opportunities for the Lions to take advantage. Like I said, this is not a defense that you want to run into the teeth of, but if you can get on the edge against this defense, it's it's a combination again about their linebackers maybe not being the most athletic, but then there's also some scheme things where they play so much off coverage where I think it opens up opportunities like this is how I believe Green Bay got their first touchdown of the game, where it's just a simple, just touch pass to Jaden Reed for an easy, run in touchdown there.
Yeah, I like this kind of stuff too. It's similar scheme to what the Lions ran to St. Brown last week to get that first down when they really needed it. I think it was a fourth down against Seattle. Watch
Yeah.
Calais Campbell there at the top of your screen next time it runs back. So 93 again, he's going to be the closed end right there lined up over the tight end. And 50 does a good job. Watch, gets him on the ground. Boom. Takes him out of the play. That's just not Calais Campbell's game anymore, getting wide and trying to defend a end around. That's going to be tough sledding for the big guy.
Yeah, no, again, Calais Campbell is great veteran. If he can get you moving backwards, he has a more than likely has an advantage there. But if you get him going laterally, and it's the same, like I said, with a lot of these defensive linemen for Atlanta,
Mhm.
you get them moving laterally, and they just don't quite hold up nearly as well as they do when you're trying to run right at them. And again, these are just a couple of plays. Again, and this video is already probably going to be over 30 minutes long. But I mean, Morgan, from your standpoint, from the film that you watched, even from the plays that we highlighted here versus even the plays that we didn't highlight, where's your confidence level at with the Lions going into this matchup on Sunday?
Slowing down their offense on the defensive side of the ball. I think, Bijan's posed some problems through 2 weeks, but I do think the Lions have shown the ability to slow down other, teams' run games against Kansas City and Seattle. So I think if they come ready to play, they stay disciplined, keep that gap integrity, run to the football, man. They need to. They need to. I think Dan Campbell used the verbiage "populate to the football." I need all 11 guys getting there because he's one of those guys that can break a tackle and take things to the crib. So my confidence level I don't know. It's solid. I wouldn't say I'm super confident because Bijan's one of those guys, but it's solid. I think it's something that can be done.
Yeah, and I would probably say something similar again about the defense, right? I think with the Lions missing some pieces on that offensive line, it is going to pose some issues. But when you factor in, the genius that is Ben Johnson, when you factor in how good Jared Goff has been at home, and I do think, again, I do think the Falcons are susceptible, on the outside. I do think you can kind of get them with some misdirection. And this is going to be their first test against an actual proven veteran quarterback. I just don't feel like I was overly impressed by their defense. Not to say that they can't, take over a game, but I hate to bring this back up because I know people are still kind of salty about the Seahawks game, but like that Lions offense was doing whatever they wanted to, and outside of 2 turnovers, they had this game well in hand, and I don't expect that to change. Um, going with Atlanta coming into town, I expect them to be just as good, if probably not even better. Um, Obviously, you're going to have Graham in there on the offensive line. You're going to have Panay still probably playing at left. I think there's enough they can do there. Um, for me, I guess, yeah, same as you. If I were to put this on a scale of maybe 1 to 10, I'm probably about at an 8 with the offense. Going up against this Atlanta defense.
There you go. I'm probably, let's call it 6.5 on defense. And that kind of speaks to, I want the Lions really need to win the turnover battle this week, man. Just take care of the football. It'd be great if they could generate an extra possession or 2 for the offense, give them a short field, because that could be a way to just, if you get up on Atlanta, that they're a team that would have a tougher time coming back from like a big deficit, just because they're not really built for that right now, right? They're not really throwing the ball around the
Yeah.
yard or taking many deep shots. So I do think if the Lions can get up on them, 14, 17 points, like multiple scores, then that could be the key to really getting after Ritter, because they might have to abandon some of the things they've been doing as they've been in these games. So that's kind of where my brain's at. It's going to be tough, but it's doable.
Absolutely. So, guys, that's going to do it for this film study on the Atlanta Falcons. Again, talking about the things that they do well, talking about the things that they probably struggle with, both on the offense and defensive end. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave us a comment below. Be sure to like this video as well. Also, if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you're looking for any more content from, Pride of Detroit and any more Lions coverage, be sure to head over to the Pride of Detroit website, and you can find any of the latest articles that we've uploaded over there. Again, I'm Miko. He's Morgan. We appreciate you guys checking out this film study, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.